So, good morning from this time zone. It's early in the morning. I think it's late at night for you, if I understand correctly. But welcome. I think we wanted to talk about this pull request, correct?
Correct.
Oh, hey, and there's Robert with Delta Worldwide. Going to the studio. Robert, are you there?
I am. Just need to set up.
Okay. So
now you can hopefully hear me. Hi.
We can hear you, but I think it's coming through your laptop, not your headphones, because it sounds like you are at the other side of the bedroom. So Robert, you get. Let me pull up this this change. So let's talk about AppendableDeltaTable for stats-free append rights. I need to pull this, get this pull request up in my terminal, which means I got to stop what I was doing. We are at 4030. Let's take a look at it. So, get that building. Shall we talk? Have you looked at this pull request, Robert? So,
yes,
I talked on this issue, which is 3979, which was inspired, Robert, by some work that you have done. Because we have a lot of stats being parsed, a lot of, like, not just in kernel, but we've got that redundant stats parsing that happens with some of our eager snapshot stuff.
So,
yeah.
Well, one thing we could maybe investigate really quick, because I think we may have a deeper problem. With deeper problem, I mean that the parsing of the stats is pushed so far, so deep into everything. Maybe we can validate this really quick. Because I think that could be the basis for the discussion, whether or not this can actually avoid parsing.
What would you like to validate?
So there is this scan object. If we go to core source kernel snapshot, or maybe just kernel scan.
Which scan are you talking about? Oh, this is great. I meant to do, you mean snapshot scan?
Yeah. Okay, so there, what this is just wrappers around the Delta kernel abstractions of scan and snapshot. No, I think just scan. And translating this to how we would like to consume stuff, i.e. going from the iterators to streams. Yeah, and here we have exactly this ScanMetadata function. So this ScanMetadata function, we need to, actually the ScanMetadata from, sorry?
It does quite a bit.
Yes, it does the evaluation. And there you see this scan row in eval thing, right?
I'm gonna cut you off because Jen and I chatted a little bit about this in the pull request. One of the things, and Abhi and I have talked about it as well. One of the things that's particularly interesting about this approach to me, the appendable delta table idea, is they're like, if you think about writing to Delta as just appends, there's a whole giant world of stuff that we can just skip and get rid of, right? If you think about an append as sometimes I append and sometimes I don't append, sometimes I have to do other stuff, all this complexity has to live somewhere to say, am I appending or am I doing this? Or am I merging or am I upserting, or is there supposed to be schema evolution? All of these things. And so the thing that's particularly interesting to me about the approach that Jen started here is if we create a separate vertical stack of this is an append only thing, we can probably skip most of the infrastructure that exists in Delta RS and sort of go straight to a write on top of Delta kernel and like cut out almost everything. But my concern is that if we try to make this work within the context of a Delta table or in our existing snapshot versus eager snapshot stuff, that we have to have a lot of like, if you're append, do this. If not append, do this. If you're append, do this. If you're not append, do this. And like all of this logic that has to exist inside of our operations or our snapshot and things like that. And that's why I encouraged Jen to take a look at this approach, is because if you say, this is an append, your API surface is very simple. And like we can go all the way like straight down to kernel. We could probably use the kernel write stuff if we really wanted to. I don't know. But like everything, like it's a completely divergent code path, but in a good way, because we skip a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Let me drop a link for the Carly to spin up. And there's a question in Twitch, and yes, you can ask a question. Just ask the question. Thank you, Carly. But yeah, go ahead, Robert. And Jen, please pipe up. We just talk. So if you just jump in.
So absolutely. So I think there is definitely some value in that. So the way I understand it, there's a couple of things you would then have to assume, right? So whoever builds this append-only table essentially says, I never read anything from the table and I'm just appending stuff, right? There's no way we can guarantee that, but that's fine. When you construct that thing, then this is sort of the constraint you live under. And then we have the fact that we do need to do some conflict resolution, unless we say an append-only table also makes other assumptions beyond the append-only delta feature, right? So the append-only delta feature just says you're not deleting data from the table, right? But it doesn't prohibit you from evolving the protocol, from evolving the schema or whatever. So to completely ignore other commits and say, okay, you never touched anything, right? It's an append-only process. We still need to inspect the conflicting commits if there were protocol or metadata changes that are relevant, right? Could be constraints, could be schema changes, could be what have you. So we would need that minimal conflict resolution. That is a subset of the conflict resolution, like the larger conflict resolution. But yeah,
not necessarily. I mean, it's a little bit difficult for me to maybe I can show this message from Ryan in a separate window. How do I get this to a separate window? Open conversation, open a new window. That's what we want. So Well, Slack is really you're so aggravating. What is this UI? Anyways, so Ryan, who works on Kernel, shared some thoughts. Gosh, this is not super big. I got to make my Slack unbearably large. But we've had this question for a while about like what is a blind append, because it's not specified in the protocol. Everybody sort of does it on their own, to where I don't think we have to do that conflict resolution if we don't want to, Robert. I think it's actually valid to say, like, if we have an appendable delta table, to say, this does no conflict resolution. This does no schema evolution. If you need those things, you have to deal with the table state in a way that has lower performance, I will say. But if you say, I'm just taking this thing and I'm just going to slap one commit after another on top, and the conflict resolution that we would do would just be, you know, if this version exists already, you know, increment +1, write the new version. Like, because there's no definition, we can kind of do whatever we want.
Well, in a way, you're right, but we must have two different definitions here, right? So when we say append only as a table feature, right, which is something that we can rely on for every writer out there, in theory, right? but yeah, let's assume every writer honors the append only feature. Then I think we still need to do conflict resolution. If we think of it as the author or the whoever invokes or whoever writes to this table completely owns the table, knows all the writers, right? And says, I impose on my end additional constraints on this table, which is, okay, schema evolution, all of this goodness is just prohibited. And I know nobody else does it. So I'm confident I'll just use the simplified, much more performant version because we can just kind of slap stuff onto it. And that's exactly kind of why
the blind part of blind append. If it wasn't blind, then you have to do all that stuff. But literally, like, the whole idea is to be very blind, to say, commit, just commit. Right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is the append only feature is not something where we can say, okay,
it's not sufficient to say that it's a blind. Yeah, I agree.
Yes. So, and from that perspective, yes, we should make it a separate table to make that very a separate struct to make that very explicit. Like, okay, this is, and probably write doc strings around. Okay, this is kind of what you need to assume. If you're using that thing, this is kind of what we assume
what
here.
If we called this, would you feel better if we called this a blind delta table?
Actually, I like that name, yes.
Okay, let's change this to blind. Jin, do you mind if I change this?
Yep.
All right. Table appendable, table blind.
But well, no, but is the wrong word. Since this is a separate thing, and I would love to get some experiences with kernel commits, and kernel commits defer conflict resolution completely to the caller. We could use the kernel APIs, the kernel transaction APIs, to, well, work with this thing, which would then also imply support for like row tracking and things like that, right? So by now we sort of left the
row tracking.
I don't love it. I love to not implement it. That's and it's the one where kind of the metadatas are updated, which we always have none, right? We always have none for, I don't know, last field for yeah. But this is something that we could do in this blind delta table.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just change the appendable tests go here.
Oh.
Table mods. There's a pub use I missed. Just read. So, Jin, I'm curious, for your use case, do you need schema evolution for these blind appends, or does just create commit, is that good enough for you? I wonder if we can get Abi in here. Abi might be at work. He's on the East Coast. We had
That would be interesting.
For appendable. What should we call this? So one of the things that I see that we've got to do here, where was it? I'm going to have to change this from eager snapshot to snapshot and sort of see what breaks. Because the eager snapshot is the one that does all that work that we are trying to avoid. So I know that I've got to make that change. Jin, you're welcome to make that change if you want. But I know that we've got to do that. Let me finish refactoring this real quick. Just do. Run. Let's see if we can compile. So if, Robert, if we were to use the kernel write APIs, do you think that is, I know enough about them to know that I am very worried about them.
I mean, the thing I most like about them is that we start to just build our add actions as, again, arrow record batches. So we're getting more, we're not touching this add struct, which has pros and cons, right? I mean, the add struct is typed and Rust loves types. All of this.
Robert loves types too.
Yes, I do, but I also love arrow. It's here you have to compromise sometimes.
That makes one of us.
And also data fusion, just FYI.
Oh, really? Jin, you might not know this, but Robert loves data fusion. Robert puts data fusion into everything. Okay, so I think these at least renaming it to blinds. What do we call this? BlindDeltaTable. That much works. So let me add this. And I think, Jin, I think I can push to this branch. Let me see. Maintainers are allowed to edit and pull it. Okay. So I'll just add this change real quick to the branch. Yeah, just refactors. Where to next, gentlemen?
I do have one quick question. I just want to feel the waters if this is something that sparks discussion or not, but it's a bit off topic from this. But we can make this very quick. Or, well, actually, no. Let's just go ahead and see if we can do more work on this.
So if we're to do, let me pull up Kernel here. We have a write table. There we are.
So I think write table is fine, but I think you can just look into the PR that I opened about InsertInto, because it contains some of the InsertInto logic, which includes how to work with like a builder for the data and stuff like this that we could pull out of there.
Create table.
And of
Where's
course,
the actual right here? It's this, you create a transaction and then it's this stuff?
no, this is all rewriting data, then it must be further below. Okay, here, yeah, there's a line 113, transaction commit. This is where we do the actual commit.
Ian had brought this concern up with the InsertInto. I think there's another person that brought this up. Like our record batch writer, which Jin had tied into a little bit here. Where was that? Like our record batch writer is, I will say, mature. Like there is a developer that I remember that put a lot of effort into making partition writing work really well. There's all of this stuff that I know exists in this record batch writer that I don't feel confident exists in the in that kernel API.
Well, the kernel API, I think we are writing the data, right? We are writing all the Parquet files, everything.
We are.
The only thing that gets written by kernel is the add action data. So we add that also as record batches, but that's kind of a very narrow, non-partitioned, here, take all of this data, serialize it to JSON and dump it to disk, right? That's not a write operation we need to worry about in terms of optimizing writes.
So if I think I understand what you're saying. So we would create a transaction somewhere in between. We would do our actual Parquet data writing, and then we would come back and do an add files.
Yes.
We don't have to use this nonsense.
Yes.
So we'd use this nonsense and this nonsense, but not this one.
Yes.
This seems reasonable. Except this does not support DynamoDB LogStore.
Does not support stats.
Oh,
It doesn't support stats?
yes.
So Jin, I was going to ask you, for your use case, are you working on S3 or some other storage provider?
Oh, I using always S3.
Okay. Do you use the DynamoDB LogStore, or do you just write to S3?
Oh, no. Not DynamoDB log is legacy. Oh, yes.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Now S3, new S3 version is support. Okay. Put
if absent. Right?
Yeah,
Yes,
right. So
yeah. Then we're good. We can support the use case. Yeah, just
you said
FYI,
legacy, which is what Robert wanted to hear.
yes, Tyler and I love talking about DynamoDB locking. Well, it's not locking; it's LogStore implementation. Sorry, the DynamoDB
It's not
LogStore
locking.
with the Samba protocol. What is it called?
Samba TV. It was a
Samba TV.
different from. Let's pull that pull request up because I had commented on this. I had this up somewhere. No. Was it here when I? No, there's more comments than one. InsertInto. Okay, well, I'll just pull up my comment because who's this guy? Mimoon from Australia. Yes, why we still need LogStore? Because of the S3 put if absent. Great question. So
Yes.
We only need this if we are supporting a legacy engine like Spark. With I agree with the legacy, but the fundamental, like the really big challenge is that if you're in just Delta RS, just Delta Lake Python, we can use put if absent so much better. Absolutely an improvement. If we have to have Delta Lake for Python or Delta Lake Rust with Delta Spark, both working on the same table. And so the use case that I frequently see is you have writes that are being performed by Delta Rust, and then periodically an optimize, which might require a much bigger environment where Spark is actually really, really beneficial. And optimize comes in and optimizes that table while new commits are being written by the Rust implementation. And that's why the DynamoDB LogStore still kind of needs to exist. As soon as Spark supports put if absent, I will personally rip this shit out. DynamoDB LogStore should go away, but we can't take it out until Spark supports put if absent, unfortunately. So, like, I'm interested in this, Robert. I'm interested in this work.
No, and I do agree. I mean, it's exactly that. And this is, so while we are liberal with our APIs, I think one thing we want to do is be open, like support a wide spectrum of tables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, that we need to support this.
Let me go back to this code. I wonder what happens if I just make this snapshot. Actually, I need to import that, don't I? We're going to import that snapshot. Will it blend? Probably not.
That was the thing too.
Expected snapshot. Like what it eager snapshot. I think we could just do like snapshot has a try new that I think takes the same arguments.
It should.
Snapshot schema, that all looks, where else is self snapshot, unsatisfied trait bound, 202. Oh, I see one on 161. We're just going to say this is snapshot. And then 202 here in the commit.
No. I ran across exactly that. Sorry?
Is this code you've been looking at?
Yes, with the InsertInto, I didn't want to depend on eager snapshot on the new table provider, right? Because that defeats the purpose, kind of. But this build method actually takes a trait, which is table reference, but table reference exposes a non-async method that exposes an eager snapshot. So essentially, you can use Delta table state and you can use eager snapshot. But yeah, the thing is, we don't need this. We don't need to go through flush and commit. Oh, where is this? Why is this? Sorry,
I don't see it flashing.
Is this part of the?
I think it's on the into future here for commit.
But it's part of the append table, right?
This function. Yes. Yeah. This function.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go through the commit builder though, right? So if we move to the kernel commits API, then we don't need to go through the commit builder.
But then we lose DynamoDB LogStore compatibility.
For append tables. I think for append tables, we can because, well, I mean, it's sort of, who cares if commits raise? It's all, it's free for all anyway.
All right, so.
No, I think, I mean, what we need from the writer is
so I'll have to just add that to every bug report that comes in.
Yes, please do. Now, I think the only thing we need is this thing generates the add actions, which we actually pass in there. So, I mean, what we can do here is we can just create the transaction. I don't know what's on the commit properties, but yeah.
Well, so hold on. Let's the underlying problem with gosh, I wish Abhi were here. Abhi and I are in the same append brain space. But if we write a commit file, I'm just thinking through what's going to happen if a Spark writer touches this table. It's not that, like, commits racing is not actually the problem. It's if Spark has loaded the table state and it says the next version is version 10 and the AppendableDeltaTable writes version 10.json and then Spark does a commit, it will overwrite version 10.json. And so it's like I just don't know that there's a way to avoid data loss with a Spark writer pointing to this table.
Well, that relies on DynamoDB LogStore.
But so part of the thing that's maybe so part of the thing that sucks with the DynamoDB LogStore designed such that it is let's say the LogStore has versions 0 through 10, and then a writer writes version 11 to object storage, but version 11 does not exist in DynamoDB. Things break. It doesn't fall back and say, oh, I'm going to, like, it treats the DynamoDB LogStore as sort of the reference of truth, or that source of truth, to where it won't ever look at data that's in, or it won't, identify that there's a newer commit in object store. And so even if you have an external commit that happens, like something comes in and brings in version 11, if it doesn't exist in DynamoDB, things break. So it has to be like both places in order for everybody to cooperate.
Yeah, I mean, if we going through kernel, what just as a thought experiment, can we, not within this PR obviously, but can we use the committer APIs?
Like with DynamoDB LogStore?
And just if you open the PR I have open, there's one place that's sort of interesting, and that's also going to make you very happy. Obviously, there's some hacks involved.
Where to, boss?
Go to data sync, and then let's find like blah 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 committer extended.
Blah blah blah. No.
Yeah, extended stats committer. If you go to that implementation. So you see, all we do here is we prepare the add action data, right? That we send through kernel, and then as kernel writes it, we intercept it and replace the stats column with kind of a full stats that we collected before, rather than just num rows. So again, they're working on letting us pass in stats, but here kind of losing stats on the commits felt like not a feasible option. So we do a little bit of dangerous magic. But yeah.
The whole point, dude, the whole point of Delta is stats. And the writer implementation in kernel doesn't support stats?
Num rows stats.
That's not, those aren't stats.
Well, I agree. We're working on it.
This is a good change, Robert. So thank you for adding this.
But what we do see here is that we can pass in an engine.
Yeah, you can inject
and here we can say, okay, I need to do the protocol call to like repair table, blah 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 blah. Do whatever we need to do on that layer. And that stats committer can carry a reference to a LogStore in it.
Interesting. So for the BlindDeltaTable, we could have a commit flow that pulls in. I mean, do you think that current API is mature enough to where if I spent time bringing the DynamoDB LogStore stuff into like making that work in this this committer interface, that we would be able to safely just use the commit API?
So I think
BlindDeltaTable.
I think if we look at that API, it's fairly well designed in terms of being extensible. Right, so the commit API itself has the engine API. That's something fairly committed, unless we get an async engine one day.
One of these days.
There is this commit metadata, and that may or may not extend, but this is not something we need for this implementation. Or actually, it may be useful for a DynamoDB LogStore, because you get like a version number and stuff like this, sits on this commit metadata. And the action, that's just the add action data, right? So I think this API is fairly extensible. And I think the same is true for the transaction. Because if you see like this, the concept of a transaction, I think that will just be there, that will just survive. And then it's kind of builder style. I just add stuff to the transaction and kind of push your changes into it.
That is interesting.
So yeah,
all of that DynamoDB LogStore work could probably fit in this commit call.
That would be awesome.
Do you think commit builder goes away, or do we plug into commit builder?
I think the commit builder goes away. So I think the commit builder has to go away, but that's a personal opinion of mine architecturally. Why? Because I think we coupled, especially this LakeFS stuff, with a custom executor, blah, 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 blah. It propagates really, really deep into our mechanics. And this is maybe something where we need to kind of make sure to start a transaction before we write any data. But if you look at something like LakeFS, right? A call to begin transaction is the ideal place to just switch the branch for the object stores rather than wiring all of this stuff through kind of in our commit process, right? Our commit process right now is very aware that it has different object stores, it has commit IDs, it has yada, yada, yada.
Sure, that's where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and I think it served us well to have this stage, pre-commit, post-commit, blah, 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 blah. But what the kernel APIs do, and maybe we can replace the inner part of the commit builder as well, right? Well, let's see. That just does a commit. But it also returns like flags, right? Okay, number of since last checkpoint, number since last compaction, and then you can decide to spawn stuff. And right now, all of this, I want to spawn thing sort of lives in this pre-post commit kind of chain we have, right? So we have to look into if we can replace the commit builder internals. But there, my main concern is actually the log segment within kernel is something really useful for us because we can very easily generate kind of a diff action stream and get that data. And I'm excited to write the conditions as expressions, kind of as queries against that data that we get from there. I think it can actually simplify our logic quite a bit. If that makes any sense. But to be honest, there I don't know what it looks like, what it can and should look like yet. But I'm concerned. Even the LogStore, right? The LogStore has this object store none call, right? Which is kind of just exists so that we can do LakeFS stuff.
Yeah. I'll have to talk to Ian to see if the commit API, if this might give us enough to where we would just switch LakeFS and the DynamoDB stuff to just use the commit API, if that simplifies things.
So the problem is I fear not, because LakeFS wants the data to be written on that other branch as well. And here we would just use a branch to write the actual commit file.
Well, in that case, I would want the LakeFS, like if you're using LakeFS, I would want you to create a LakeFS transaction, like a different thing.
Yes. So we may actually need to wrap the transaction, which could also be good for migration. Because we could have an immediately deprecated, we love this, method on that allows you to add new files in terms of add actions. So the way I build it, it actually uses Parquet metadata, but we kind of do the same thing already because we create add actions from Parquet metadata to get the stats from this and stuff like that, right? So conceptually, we're still doing the same thing. We just don't need to actually create that add action object. We just need to convert it to record batches, kind of.
I made some notes. Builder to use. So next steps for this, I think I can chat with Abi, and Steve and I chat regularly, so I can chat with them, Jin, to talk about what we've discussed here today. I think what I can do, if you're open to it, Jin, is I can build on this branch to, let me go to the code, to change this flush and commit to use the kernel commit API for the actual writes. And then I have some workloads that I can test to see that we're getting the that blind append performance pretty easily on. But if you're up for it, I can take this pull request and just work on this function, changing this function. And then I think we should actually have something pretty good. Or if you want, Jen, you can take that. To you.
Yes. I can take this.
Okay. Then I'm going to say... Let me grab a link to what I was looking at here. We were looking at this line to this line. Right, okay, function. There we go. I think this captures everything. What do y'all think?
Sounds good. Determined, yes.
All right. Robert's determined. I'm going to approve those workflows to run. Cool. Robert, we only have a few minutes left. Did you have I want to talk data fusion things that you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, there's actually one question that's part of some PR. I don't know which one.
One of the many PRs you have open right now.
The new table provider does a couple of things a little bit differently. I hope better, but you do remember that there was a lot of fun in the world around, okay, how do we do data imputation? Like, okay, with nested columns, empty structs.
I do not.
Well, we have like this huge casting function. And also like physical arrow types. How do we translate, or how do we expose this stuff like dictionary encoded, or we talked a lot about string views and Data Fusion actually has an opinion. It says views first, they're great. The Parquet reader actually optimizes for reading data into string view columns rather than UTF-8 or large UTF-8 columns. So why am I bringing all of this up? Because right now we also just adopt string view columns rather than doing UTF-8. You can change that configuration. And we also changed the order of partition columns, not because I wanted the order changed necessarily, but rather because I didn't want to care about it. And we just use whatever schema kernel exposes. And this just makes our code much simpler. We don't need to, I don't know, this is a partition column, it's in the end, it's in the beginning, blah, 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 blah. You can even impose a schema you want to read the table as long as it's a subset of the actual table schema. With your own chosen physical types, if you so choose to. But this flexibility comes that we don't want to be too opinionated on where each column is, and essentially just take it from kernel. And this looks gnarly in the tests, because like all of these printed tables with partition columns are changed now because the column order changed. But I think it's more consistent and better. And yeah, I was just wanted to get a feeling for if people think this is a problem or not.
The reordering of columns, I don't think is a big deal. I'm not super worried about that. Depending on what you mean by just take whatever kernel takes, I shared this link because kernel is wrong right now, and kernel continues to be wrong because no one working on kernel has big data. Like kernel needs to use string view or large UTF-8 in order for me to trust kernel's choice. Right now it's wrong. And so I have no problem with Delta RS like defaulting to using what kernel is using, but kernel has to not be wrong.
I'm sorry. Kernel, we're using what kernel uses in terms of the order of the columns in the schema. In terms of the physical types, we're not using what kernel or what the translation tells us, but
okay.
we're actually defaulting to string views.
Perfect. I think string view, I agree. I think Data Fusion is choosing the right default there.
Yeah, and actually string views are nice because they're supported everywhere. That's kind of what all the arrow implementations agree on. But like the regular string column, right? In order to make that work with polars, we need to cast it to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we use string views and byte views. by default and push this all the way into the Parquet read, which
Good.
yeah.
It's the right choice.
Yeah, actually, I just pushed another. Well, we only have 2 minutes left, but I pushed something on the branch for data validation on a stream. That's why.
Okay, let's look at Robert's 6 open pull requests right now. Okay, so which one?
The top
Data validation
one.
on a stream?
Yes. Actually, I
don't know, Robert. I think I might diagnose you with ADD. I think just on this.
Let me think.
Okay.
I should have just pushed something, and it should be running CI again.
Fix Python tests? Yeah, it looks like you just...
Okay, but we already failed in Python builds, which is obviously exactly what I wanted.
So not ready yet? That's what I'm hearing.
No, this is... Oh, the Lake FS. I don't know.
Robert, you're determined to own it.
Yes. Anyway, I'll look into. So most of the tests are fixed.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I like this PR. I mean, we have 1 minute left. It's.
Oh, you just want me to merge it? Since we have 1 minute left, I think we should call it there.
Yes.
Thank Jin, our special guest, for starting this pull request. First of all, I'm looking forward to this work coming to a completion. I think it's going to be really beneficial. I think between you, Jin, Abi, and myself, I think the 3 of us have pretty good use cases in mind for how we will use this, which is exciting. I think it's going to allow us to also showcase some of the improvements that Delta Kernel has been developing in terms of its laziness on loading data and things like that. Robert, as always, thank you for
one
fighting the
very
good
quick
fight.
comment.
No comments. We're wrapping up. Nope, we're wrapping up. We're gonna have to go to Slack. Time's
we'll
up.
do that.
Jin should probably go to sleep. I gotta go to work. You need a coffee. Carly's got to go to work. Like, we should.
Yeah, we're done. Thanks, Jin, for joining us.
Thank you all for hanging out.
Thank you.
I'll see y'all on Slack.